How you doing? I'm so glad you've taken the time to join me again as we are continuing in our conversations around the theme Jesus and our mental health. For those of you who are first time watchers of these series of videos, welcome. To those who have been following along with this conversation, welcome back. Um, the Bible is clear that Jesus is called a wonderful counselor. Not just a counselor, but an extraordinary counselor. He is also described as the Prince of Peace. This is talking about inner peace that is experienced by others that are around us. So it's an internal peace that actually is seen by others, experienced by others that come in contact with us. So this type of peace oftentimes is a little confusing to the possessor of it, because I don't know if you're like me. Sometimes I've wondered, why am I so calm? Why you've been so calm in very upsetting situations. And maybe people around you have noted and remarked, I really would like to see why you're so calm in this situation. How can you keep yourself? But the Bible talks about peace and equity. That equity is evenness. That equity is balanced. Um, Balance, of course, is the ability to respond to things that are going on around us in a way that doesn't throw us completely off, but we have this equilibrium that we have. Now, based upon that, I want to talk to you today about something that's going to be sensitive, but I believe it's going to be helpful. And that is how we address depression in our everyday lives. Now, pretty simple. People don't wake up depressed. So we know depression is the result of a process. So I'm going to tell you two or three things, probably three. The third one might surprise you. And we will have this conversation. And depending on your response, we will either stop the conversation because you believe everything has been said, or we can continue the conversation in another video on this very sensitive subject. Now, the Bible addresses this, and most people don't understand it, haven't seen it, or fully comprehended it. It says, blessing or persecution that adds no sorrow. So we want to start with sorrow and I believe sadness first. Now, sadness, being sad about something, is a God-given emotion. So you and I can navigate those things, be able to manage those things which make us happy or cause us to feel sad. Now, I'm going to identify depression as continued sadness that begins to dominate your life. So sadness, or what the Bible calls sorrow, continued. Watch this now. So sadness is my initial feeling when I'm disappointed, when I'm upset, something happens contrary to what I thought it would be, I can experience some sadness. Sorrow, however, in the Bible is identified as the word fabricate. Now watch how this works. So when sorrow happens to you and I have to build an enclosure. I step inside the enclosure. I lock the door, lose the key. So now I'm trapped in something that I fabricated that's using material that God did not give me to build this place of sorrow or depression. And then I find myself not knowing how to be freed from it. That's what I want to try to help you with today. I think all of us have been depressed in life. I've been depressed myself at times. And there are three basic things that I think will help us as this conversation progresses. The first thing we've got to do is admit you're in a place of sorrow, place of depression. Admit it. not looking at other people's reasons, but why you reacted the way you did to the situation. Now, sorrow, again, once again, being sad is very common, very natural. A loved one dies, you lose a job, a business doesn't do well, a contract you were depending on doesn't happen, acceptance by a group of people that you wanted to be a part of. So sadness is a natural part of our emotional landscape. So sadness is nothing to be upset about. But sadness that develops into something controlling is where I believe the danger is. So watch what we do. I've got to admit that I'm sad. Now, this is not weakness, but I can't be delivered from my sorrow, my depression, if I won't admit that I am, number one. And here's the other piece, number two, why I'm depressed. I am. Okay, now the why. Now, one of the natural things to do is blame every external thing we can find on why we feel the way we feel. But what I'm talking to you about is operating your life from a place of strength. We're not in denial that things make us sad. We're not in denial that we've been sad over a few days, few weeks, few months. And every now and then we have to realize, wait a minute, the sadness is starting to manage my life. So what do I have to do? I first have to admit that I have it. And then I've got to analyze why I'm sad. Just why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? The first place to look is not externally. First place to look is internally. Why in this situation am I processing it the way I am this time? Why is this feeling so strong? What about me has made me a little more vulnerable to this sadness controlling my life? Is it something in my past? Is it something, another disappointment that, watch this. I need you to understand that emotionally at times we're like prize fighters. A prize fighter can have a very difficult fight, win, start training for another fight. Everything seems to be going according to plan. They get into the next fight and don't realize how much the last fight took out of them. So watch what happens. I feel the same. I've got a victory to look back to, but I get in another situation similar to the one that I was victorious in. And not until I'm battling again do I realize how much strength, emotional strength, spiritual strength the last incident took out of me. So a lot of times our present depression, our present sadness can be connected to a previous conflict, a previous situation, a previous circumstance that we came through it but didn't realize how much it took out of us. So I know you've had times when you've had to ask yourself, why am I so sad about this? Why am I so offended about this? Why am I feeling so sad? Why can't I get through this? Because the tendency for us is to disconnect one situation from another, when in reality, especially emotionally, everything has continuity. Everything is connected. So you can have gone through a situation and it taken more out of you emotionally than you realize until you get into another similar situation and realize I'm not reacting the way that I did before. So I've got to acknowledge, then I've got to analyze. Now, how do you do this? You have to ask yourself, why, the obvious question, why am I feeling so bad about this? Why am I not getting through this? Why am I not getting over this? Start to connect the dots back to previous things that may be connected. Now, what's really strange is that an accumulation of events can also become an issue. If I have dealt with a lot of emotional trauma over the last 10 years, and then I have another emotional test, perhaps I reach my limit. before. It's like this. I was amazed when a doctor explained to me how a person can be allergic to something like poison ivy. So I'm thinking, you come in contact with poison ivy, you immediately have a reaction. He said, no, that's not how it works. He says, the first contact with poison ivy, unbeknownst to you because you didn't have a reaction, didn't give you any kind of allergic reaction. Your body handles it. But the next time you come into contact with poison ivy, you get this crazy breakout because your immune system has battled successfully the first exposure. But then when you load it up again with another exposure, your body reacts. I'm saying to you that there are some things you've absorbed in the past that in your present, you've reacted and you almost surprise yourself. So we're going to admit denial will never get you closer to strength. Listen to what I'm saying. Denial will never bring you closer to strength. Then you're going to analyze. Okay, why do I feel this way? Connect the dots. What in the past is causing me to react so strongly to something in the present? Who in the past is causing me to react so strongly to someone in the present? Why am I so sad? Watch this. And why am I reacting so strongly to it? So we're going to analyze, we're going to acknowledge, admit, analyze. All right, now, after we analyze, we We're going to acknowledge, okay, I put my finger on it. As remote as it sounds, as disconnected as it sounds, this incident has awakened or touched a sensitive place in my life. All right, now, what do I do after that? I want to call the next one action. What action? Now, a lot of times, especially for those people of faith that are watching this, I need you to get this. Many times, we will reach for something that God would not be pleased with to help us feel better. Now, the reason this doesn't work for people of faith is because balance is restored with things that God is pleased with, not with things he's not pleased with. Okay? Let me show it to you. All of us have had anxiety before. So Moses goes up in the mountain, and Moses stays longer than the people waiting for him, because they're waiting to hear from God, waiting for a move of God. He stays longer than they're comfortable with. And the stress drives them to build a calf. By the time Moses gets back, they're addicted to or worshiping the calf. So the reason it doesn't work is because they chose something as an alternative, if you will, as a balm, as a solution to their stress, to their feeling. They chose something that God wouldn't be pleased with. And it caused more confusion, not less. So what am I recommending to you? One of the things that long-term sadness or depression will do is threaten your righteous habits. You don't feel like going to work. You don't feel like going to your club meetings. You don't feel like talking to people on the phone. You don't feel like, I'm not saying you won't have days like this, but when this thing becomes protracted, when days multiply into weeks, many times, 9 out of 10 times, people break their good habits. Stop praying. Stop reading your Bible. Stop going to church. Stop hanging out with positive people. Start watching negative things, engaging in negative all these things are reactions. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying this. Your righteous habits, going to work, taking care of where you live, taking care of yourself, those habits that you've built over time are the ones you want to hold on to. Now, people of faith, we have another weapon, and that we can go to the Word of God and begin to read those things that God has placed in His Word to encourage us, to strengthen us as we're going through these tough emotional seasons. So what did I tell you? Your righteous habits, you want to intentionally continue, even though you're tempted not to do them. I can't tell you how many times I've personally gone through some things emotionally, and one of the first things that's impacted is my drive. I know some of you can relate to this. My drive to do things, my drive to accomplish, my drive to press through certain things. And it's at those times that I intentionally tell myself, we got to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. Because you don't want to break your righteous habits because of sadness, because one of the main weapons of sadness is to diminish your drive, therefore to diminish your progress, diminish any process that has been fruitful in your life. That's the main tool, main effect that sadness would like to have on you. So you still make your bed. You still wash the dishes. You still clean your house. You still take a little extra care getting ready in the morning. Am I making sense to you? Because one of the first things that happens when we get sad, when we become depressed, is depression does what it's designed to do, and that's break your positive habits. I hope this is making sense to you. So first, can't live in denial. Got to accept the fact. Have to analyze it. Why am I feeling this way? Have to acknowledge the source. And then you've got to analyze your activity. I hope this is helping you. I want you to write me on whatever site you're on. I'd love to hear from you as we continue to have these conversations. If you think I need to do more of this on this particular subject, write me or let me know. Once again, thanks for joining me. It's been an honor to have this conversation. I'll see you next time on Jesus and Our Mental Health.